Where are we going after eating? Adachi asked, wiping sugar stains off her mouth. This station had many establishments meant for salarymen coming from work who wanted a drink, but few for us. There were grocery stores, bakeries, and even an MOS burger on the first floor. All places that sold food. Well, there was a Matsukiyo deeper in, but I didn't have any specific interest going there. I don't really see this station often. It's way different from Nagoya, that's for sure. Still, Nagoya's a pain. Too many people. This is just the right amount for me, Adachi said, laughing. Agreeing with the first half of her statement, I tossed what was left of my donut into my mouth. As I now had to wait until Adachi was done eating, I quickly spaced out. Back when I was in elementary school, it had been written on my report card that I was an absent-minded child. I hadn't changed much in that aspect, and even these days, it didn't take long for my mind to wander off whenever I had free time. I let my senses take over and lazily extended my limbs, without any particular preference where they landed. I really liked moments like these, just relaxing and letting myself sink into the world of imagination. A possible implication of this was that I preferred being alone. Being with someone else meant not being allowed to point your senses inwards. I'm done. Adachi wiped her hands and stood up. I was a little jealous of how light her bag seemed. Okay, so, shall we go? We began walking with our destination still unknown. Our legs moved on their own, guiding us towards the station's entrance. Had I been by myself, I likely would have spaced out, wandered around aimlessly, and then gone home as my feet got tired. However, Adachi was with me now. Not wanting to offend her, I forced my brain to stay active. A pretty rare occurrence, me working this much. In a way, pain and being a human went hand in hand. Things that you couldn't comprehend, things that were tedious, the effort it took to mend and demolish all the complexities that arose with relationships. And yet, in the crevices of all those negative aspects, there lay scattered bits of happiness. Like accidentally finding a small ball you'd lost when you were a child. A better future. That's what I wanted to believe that meeting Adachi had been. With thoughts like that flowing through my mind, we exited the station. Then, after a few steps, squeeze. I tried to speak, but I was far too astonished, and no sound came out of my mouth. Adachi, standing beside me, had grasped my hand. Having not anticipated it in the slightest, I froze in my tracks and turned around to look at her. Our eyes met, and I could see Adachi anxiously trying to gauge my reaction. She then looked away. Had Adachi, for instance, noticed that I was about to wander on the road and grabbed my hand to stop me at the last second? It didn't seem like that was the case. Oh, if you don't want to, I'll let go. I'll let go right away. She spoke rapidly, almost as if in panic. I couldn't help but get a little flustered too, and my eyes moved away from her. I looked at the station, the fence next to it, then the sign telling that the flying junction was under construction. No, it's fine. I was just surprised. I'd thought that she'd been a pickpocket who had accidentally grabbed my hand instead of my bag. That, or a pushy guy trying to pick me up. Anyway, it made me feel relieved knowing that the random stranger hadn't just taken my hand. And yet, I hesitated asking Adachi why she had done so. No matter how you looked at it, holding hands was excessively close. I could feel my legs getting shaky. It was pretty strange how I had been more okay with her using my lap as a pillow, but I digress. Should I stop? No, it's fine. Let's keep moving. I couldn't bring myself to shake her off. Sometimes even I took other people's feelings into consideration. I gripped Adachi's hand back and began walking. Feeling extremely self-conscious, I purposefully puffed out my chest and extended my back. I knew that if I didn't force myself to do so, I would have ended up cowering like a cat, trying to hide from the gazes of those around us. Though Adachi's lack of warning had definitely caught me off guard, doing something like this wasn't necessarily unheard of. Maybe not in school, but outside of it I'd definitely seen girls walk around hand in hand, or arm in arm. Of course, seeing others do it was one thing. Now doing it myself, I felt pretty weird. Not that I'd even had the opportunity to hold someone's hand since the sport day in elementary school. Adachi's hand was very soft, which also made it a bit difficult to relax. You're surprisingly affectionate, Adachi. I'm not. Her reply sounded strangely assertive. It seemed that even Adachi wasn't all that confident in herself. Staring at the road, she squeezed my hand tight. It felt so awkward having her behave this way. Definitely surprising, I restated, showing just how strange the situation I found myself in was. This wasn't at all the kind of future I'd been thinking about while eating that donut. It's not really surprising to me, though. Well, obviously. Adachi had been the one to grab my hand after all. It would have been a real mystery if even she herself had found it strange. As we continued walking, I found myself unable to focus on anything other than the fact that we were holding hands. Was this just how Adachi lived her life? Always holding someone's hand? We had never walked together before this, so maybe she just hadn't had a chance to hold mine. Was that it? There definitely were people like that out there, who do that because they wanted to feel the touch of another person. Or maybe Adachi was actually into girls. No, probably not. Probably. Probably. For some reason, I was unable to look at her face and could only stare forwards, but regardless. Still, what would I do if that happened? If Adachi said that she loved me? Really? What would I do? Where are we going, Shimamura? Huh? I don't know. Do you have anywhere you want to go, Adachi? I'm fine with going wherever you want to go. This was quite a difficult situation, as we were both the kind of people who lacked the will to choose for themselves. We ended up pushing the responsibility onto each other. As Adachi seemed like the more mature one of us, I wanted her to solve this. We were like a pair of lost children, wandering around somewhere unfamiliar. Where was that doggy cop to take us home? Adachi's finger twitched. More precisely, I felt a slight pulse coming from her fingertips, traveling through the part on my skin where they touched. Conscious of that pulse, I moved my finger, earning a reaction from her. It then vanished, as if hiding itself. It was like fishing. Slightly cautiously, we both tried to touch each other, all to get a glimpse of something. What about me did Adachi want to see? I really didn't know. Sure, there was a lot that we didn't talk about, but I wasn't particularly hiding anything. Other things, like the townscape around us, no longer mattered to me, as my brain was pretty much full even at the best of times. I felt it might fry from an information overload if I didn't shut off some of my senses for now. The last thing I wanted to have happen was to lose my composure and start yelling out loud. Where were we going? Shopping hand in hand? Yeah, definitely not there. Should I just drag her all the way to my house, like pulling a fish onto land? Just as I was about to make that suggestion. Cuckoo! What? I heard a certain cry. Was that the word? Coming from behind me. One that I'd grown very used to hearing the previous day. I turned around, and Adachi did too. Just as I had expected, the spacesuit from yesterday was standing behind me. The height was the same, meaning that the person inside was likely the same as well. Though the city might have been small from a global perspective, it definitely wasn't when you actually walked around. As such, it was pretty crazy to think that we'd just happened to run across each other immediately the day after our first encounter. The suit's blue visor shone dimly, and as it shook, it seemed like it was filled with stars made of water, moving all around. Hello? Oh, hello. She bowed her head politely, and I quickly did the same. I saw you, so I thought I'd call out to you. Cuckoo! Was that your call? Talking while bewildered really wasn't good for my stomach. Also, I just realized, but at some point, Adachi had pulled her hand away. Now holding her arm tight against herself, she stood a small distance away from me. That slight bit of red I saw on her nose indicated she was blushing. Despite all the time I had spent walking around town with her, I still didn't really understand what was going through Adachi's mind. Is that how you usually dress when you go out? Well, these are my best clothes. Perhaps her only ones. It seemed like talking with her was drawing attention to me from the people around. Not that I really cared. I wasn't sure if it was due to the earlier hand-holding and trying to hide my embarrassment or what, but I felt strangely active. I attempted to place my hand on her helmet, causing Chikama to panic and hastily retreat. She kept her distance from me as I wiggled my fingers, but the moment I retracted my hand, she hopped back to me. That strong opposition to having her helmet removed made me want to take it off even more. Chikama, or I guess I could call her by her first name, Yashiro, brought her face close to my fingers. Or more accurately, her visor. Your fingers smell wonderfully sweet. I couldn't tell if she was actually smelling them or what. She did rub her visor all over my fingers. I was reminded of an insect lured in by the nectar of a flower. While I definitely preferred her to an insect, I still found the fact that she could smell anything through the thing on her head a little curious. What would I do if the person inside was a dog human? My face reflected off the visor. With a slight change of angle, Adachi too showed up in the corner. Looking at her expression, it kind of seemed like she wasn't amused. Lovely. What scent is this? Donuts, maybe? I ate one a little while back. Donut? Yashiro asked, tilting her head. With her head still tilted, she turned her helmet towards the paper bag I was holding. I had a really bad feeling about that and began pulling it back. As I did, however, Yashiro's hand moved, matching the movements of the bag. She'd likely leap towards it in a second now if I were to ignore her. So, what exactly are you doing? My radar reacted. You have donuts in there. I do, but we aren't at the fishing pond. Don't take them. Come to think of it, you had to pay to enter the pond. Did that mean that she had money? Yashiro lifted a single finger. Give me one of those donuts, and I'll hand you a piece of space secrets in return. Is there a sale on space secrets or something? Because that doesn't sound like a fair deal. Though at first I was very much against the idea of giving her my donuts, I soon realized it. Eating something would likely mean that she'd take her helmet off. I'd get to see her face. Seeing how I had been curious about it ever since yesterday, this was the perfect bait to lure me in. Well, whatever, but just one. Whoa! It was hard to tell if there was an exclamation of enthusiasm or not. Her pose, with both of her hands raised high, seemed strangely apathetic. My little sister would probably be satisfied with just a single one, right? Besides, if I bought her too many snacks, she'd lose her appetite for dinner, and Mom would get mad at me. After a few moments of pondering which to spare, I handed Yashiro the custard cream one. Is this a donut? Oh! Again, did that voice indicate that she was impressed or not? Either way, it was very characteristic of her, though I couldn't help but be reminded of the cry of an animal. I eagerly waited for Yashiro to remove her helmet, only to be massively disappointed. She barely opened it at all. The donut slipped through the slight crack, and the sound of munching soon ensued. I felt horribly uncomfortable, as well as disappointed over not being able to see her face. Just what was this girl? These are good. Sweet, sweet. Yashiro, on the other hand, was clearly delighted. Her entire body shook from joy. Not knowing what a donut is goes beyond just being a weirdo. Not that I minded seeing her happy, of course. Would you happen to have any more sweet things? I could feel a demanding glare coming from inside the helmet. With my hands on my hips, I refused her. Go buy them yourself. I don't have money. She seemed strangely proud about that. How the heck do you live the... Shimamura? My name was suddenly called, and I jumped a little. Mostly due to how stiff the voice responsible sounded. Adachi placed her bag back on her shoulder and pointed her eyes towards the opposite side of the road. I'll go get my bike, so... Huh? Wait, I thought you didn't come to school by bike today. I felt so confused. Thinking about it calmly, she probably meant picking it up from the repair shop. Anyway, I'm going now. See you tomorrow. Waving her hand slightly, Adachi turned around and left by herself. I tried yelling back to her, but she only gave me a glance over her shoulder and waved at me again.